The joke was supposed to be harmless. That's what I kept telling myself as I stared at the screen, my hands trembling around Julie's phone. I'd grabbed it to send a silly message to her sister Annabelle, something about canceling our weekend trip because Julie had suddenly developed an allergy to fun. Classic husband humor, right? Wrong. The message thread I accidentally opened wasn't with Annabelle. It was with someone named Ronan, and the first thing I saw made my stomach drop through the floor. Photos, videos, hotel receipts, a digital trail of betrayal so detailed it could have been evidence in court. "At least Todd's working late again," one message read. "More time for us at the Marriott." "He's so clueless," came the reply. "Still thinks you're at book club on Thursdays." Book club. She'd been telling me about book club for 6 months. I'd even bought her a fancy bookmark for Christmas. I scrolled up, my IT training kicking in automatically. Screenshots, cloud backups, email forwards. I documented everything with the methodical precision of a man whose world was crumbling in real time. 23 messages, 14 photos, 7 hotel stays. All time-stamped, all detailed, all absolutely devastating. The front door clicked open downstairs. "Todd? You home?" Julie's voice carried that fake sweetness she used when she wanted something. Tonight, apparently, she wanted to pretend we still had a marriage. I quickly forwarded the entire conversation to my personal email, cleared the phone's recent activity, and placed it back on her nightstand. By the time her heels clicked up the stairs, I was sitting on our bed, laptop open, looking like the same oblivious husband I'd been 5 minutes ago. "How was book club?" I asked, not looking up from my screen. She paused in the doorway, and I caught her reflection in my laptop screen. Guilt flickered across her face for just a moment before the mask slipped back into place. "Oh, you know how it is? Margaret always dominates the discussion." She moved to her dresser, started removing jewelry with practiced casualness. "We're reading some romance novel this month. Lots of passion and betrayal." "Sounds riveting," I said, still typing. "Learn anything new?" "Nothing you'd find interesting." That was probably true. I wouldn't find her affair interesting. Devastating, yes. Rage-inducing, absolutely. But interesting? No. Cheating was disappointingly common. What would be interesting was what I planned to do about it. Julie disappeared into the bathroom, and I heard the shower start. While she washed off her evening with Ronan, I got to work. First, I changed all our shared account passwords. Then I set up email forwarding from her personal account to mine. Finally, I disabled her backup credit cards and transferred our joint savings into an account she couldn't access. The shower was still running when I finished. Perfect timing. I picked up her phone again and opened her family group chat. The one with her parents, her sister Annabelle, and her brother Kevin. Then I scrolled back to find the spiciest message from her conversation with Ronan, something about meeting at the hotel tomorrow and what she planned to wear, or rather, not wear. I copied it, pasted it into the family chat, and hit send. The phone immediately started buzzing. First Annabelle. "Julie, what the heck?" Then her mother. "Is this some kind of joke?" Her father. "Call me immediately." Kevin. "Who is Ronan?" I set the phone back down and poured myself a whiskey. The shower was still running, but it wouldn't be for much longer. Julie was about to have a very interesting evening. When she came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her, her phone was vibrating like an angry wasp. She grabbed it, and I watched her face cycle through confusion, horror, and panic in the span of 3 seconds. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," she whispered, frantically typing responses. "Everything okay, honey?" I asked, taking a sip of whiskey. She looked at me with wide, desperate eyes. "I think my phone got hacked. Someone sent a weird message to my family." "That's terrible," I said, managing to keep my voice steady. "Oh, what kind of message?" "Just spam. Weird spam. I need to call my parents." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She rushed out of the room, phone pressed to her ear, and I heard her voice echoing down the hallway as she tried to explain away the unexplainable. Her lies came fast and frantic, each one more desperate than the last. I finished my whiskey and opened my laptop. Time to do some research on Mr. Ronan Pace. According to his social media profiles, he was a sales director at a high-end car dealership, drove a BMW, and spent most of his free time at an expensive gym downtown. He was also, based on his photos, exactly the kind of guy Julie would find irresistible, all flash and no substance. But here's the thing about flash. It burns out fast when exposed to the right kind of heat. My phone buzzed with a text from my buddy Derrick. Heard through the grapevine your wife's been seen around town with some fancy boy. You okay, man? Small towns. Can't keep a secret to save their lives. I texted back, define okay. Want to grab a drink tomorrow? Rusty tap, usual time. Absolutely. Julie came back into the bedroom an hour later, looking like she'd aged 5 years. Her family had apparently bought her hacking story, but barely. She'd have to be more careful now, which would make her sloppy in other ways. Everything sorted out? I asked. Yeah, just a weird glitch. Technology, you know? I know technology pretty well, actually. It's my job. She gave me a sharp look, but I was already closing my laptop, acting like the same boring, predictable husband she'd been cheating on for months. I'm exhausted, she said. Long day. I bet. She climbed into bed beside me, and for the first time in our 8-year marriage, I felt like I was sleeping next to a stranger, which I supposed I was. The Julie I'd married wouldn't have done this. But then again, maybe I'd never really known her at all. As she drifted off to sleep, I stared at the ceiling and planned my next move. This wasn't about saving our marriage. That was already over. This was about making sure everyone knew exactly who Julie really was and what she'd done, starting with Ronan. The Rusty Tap hadn't changed in 20 years, which was exactly why I liked it. Same cracked vinyl booths, same neon signs advertising beer brands that barely existed anymore, same smell of fried food and broken dreams. It was the kind of place where a man could think and where conversations stayed private. Derrick was already there when I arrived, nursing a beer and chatting with Mickey, the bartender who knew everyone's business and kept most of it to himself. Derrick looked up as I approached, his weathered face creasing into a concerned frown. You look like hell, Todd. Feel worse. I slid into the booth across from him. What have you heard? Enough. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Your wife's been seen around town with some guy drives a fancy BMW. Word is they've been meeting at the Marriott out by the highway. His name's Ronan Pace. Works at Premier Auto, the high-end place. Derrick's eyebrows shot up. You know about him? Found out last night. Let's just say Julie's not as careful with her phone as she thinks. Mickey brought over a beer without being asked, then discreetly moved to the other end of the bar. Derrick waited until he was out of earshot before speaking again. So what's the plan? Still working on that. But I figure a guy who drives a BMW probably cares a lot about his image. And his car. Especially his car. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking our beers and watching the evening crowd filter in. The Rusty Tap attracted a specific type of person. Blue-collar workers, retirees, people who understood that sometimes life handed you a raw deal and you had to figure out how to deal with it. You know, Derrick said eventually, I do towing work on the side. Sometimes cars end up in inconvenient places. That's interesting. Of course, I'd never do anything illegal. But if a car happened to be parked somewhere it shouldn't be, well, that's just responsible citizenship. I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. Good to know. My phone buzzed with a text from Julie. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. I showed Derrick the message. Guess she's got another book club meeting. Funny how book clubs always meet at hotels these days. I spent the next hour learning everything Derrick knew about Ronan Pace. Turns out the guy was something of a local celebrity. Trust fund baby who'd moved to town 6 months ago, threw money around like confetti, and had a reputation for chasing married women. The bartenders at the upscale places downtown knew him well, and not in a good way. Guy's got an apartment at those new luxury condos on Elm Street, Derrick said. Building's got visitor parking, but residents get assigned spots. Very exclusive. Sounds like the kind of place where unauthorized vehicles might get towed. Absolutely. Can't have just anyone parking there. We finished our beers and stepped outside into the cool evening air. Derrick's tow truck was parked across the street, and seeing it gave me an idea. You busy tonight? I asked. Not particularly. Why? Feel like taking a drive? 20 minutes later, we were parked outside Ronan's apartment complex, watching his BMW gleam under the parking lot lights. The car was beautiful, I had to admit. Sleek, expensive, and absolutely pristine. The kind of vehicle that made a statement about its owner's success and sophistication. Shame if something happened to it, Derrick said conversationally. Terrible shame. Of course, if it was parked illegally. Well, that would be different. That would be a public service. I walked over to examine the parking situation more closely. Ronan's BMW was indeed parked in a visitor spot, not a resident spot. According to the signs posted around the lot, visitor parking was limited to 4 hours maximum. How long do you think that car's been there? I asked Derrick. Hard to say. Could be all day. Could be all night. Definitely looks like a violation to me. What happened next was, technically speaking, completely legal. Derrick called the apartment complex's management company and reported an abandoned vehicle in visitor parking. The management company, eager to maintain their upscale image, authorized immediate towing. But we didn't just tow the car. First, I used a small tube of superglue to seal the door locks, not enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to make them inoperable. Then, I carefully placed a handful of shrimp from the Rusty Tap's kitchen into the air vents. Finally, I deflated all 4 tires just enough to make them look suspicious, but not completely flat. By the time Derrick's truck hauled the BMW away, it looked like the victim of a very targeted, very personal attack. I left a note on the ground where the car had been parked. Visitor parking is for visitors, not home wreckers. Next time, try being more discreet. We were back at the Rusty Tap within an hour, celebrating with another round of beers. My phone had been buzzing constantly, Julie texting updates about her work emergency, but I ignored it. Let her wonder why I wasn't responding with my usual concerned husband routine. Think he'll figure out who did it? Derrick asked. Probably, but proving it's a different story. And even if he could prove it, what's he going to do? Call the police and explain how his car got vandalized while he was sleeping with someone's wife? Exactly. Around midnight, my phone rang. Julie, sounding frantic. Todd? Thank goodness you answered. I'm going to be really late tonight. This project is a nightmare. No problem. I'm just having a drink with Derrick. Oh. She sounded surprised. I rarely went out on weeknights. Well, don't wait up. I might not be home until morning. Take your time. Get everything sorted out. After I hung up, Derrick raised his beer in a mock toast. To sorting things out. To getting what you deserve. We drank to that, and I felt something shift inside me. For months, I'd been the faithful, boring husband while Julie lived her double life. But that version of Todd was gone now, replaced by someone harder, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous. Julie thought she was playing games with a fool. She was about to learn how wrong she was. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know what you did. I showed it to Derrick, who laughed. That was fast. I typed back, prove it. The response came immediately. This isn't over. Looking forward to it, I replied. Then I turned off my phone and ordered another beer. Tomorrow, Julie would come home expecting to find the same oblivious husband she'd left behind. Instead, she'd find someone who knew exactly what she was and who had no intention of making this easy for her. The game was just getting started. Julie came home at 6 a.m, looking like she'd spent the night in a hotel room instead of an office. Her hair was too perfect, her makeup too fresh, and she smelled like expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Rough night? I asked from the kitchen table, where I'd been drinking coffee and reading the news on my laptop. She jumped, clearly not expecting me to be awake. Oh, you scared me. Yes, terrible night. The Henderson account is falling apart. That's unfortunate. Coffee? Please. I poured her a cup, noting how her hands shook slightly as she accepted it. Guilt, exhaustion, or maybe just the stress of maintaining so many lies. Probably all 3. By the way, I said casually, Mrs. Dorsey stopped by last night. Said she saw you leaving with someone yesterday evening. Thought it was strange since you told me you were working late. Julie's coffee cup rattled against the saucer. Mrs. Dorsey needs to mind her own business. She was just being neighborly. You know how she worries? She's a gossip and a busybody. True, but she's also got excellent eyesight for someone her age. Julie set down her coffee and looked at me directly for the first time since walking in. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, just making conversation. But she could see something had changed. I wasn't playing my usual role of the trusting, slightly dim husband. The mask was slipping, and she was smart enough to notice. I need a shower, she said abruptly. Good idea. You smell like someone else's cologne. She froze halfway to the stairs. What did you say? I said you should enjoy your shower. The water pressure's been great lately. She stared at me for a long moment, then hurried upstairs. I heard the bathroom door slam, followed by the sound of running water. While she showered, I checked my email. 3 messages from Ronan Pace, each more angry than the last. The first was professionally threatening, the second was personally insulting, and the third was just incoherent rage. I forwarded all 3 to Julie's work email with a note. Thought you should see what your book club friend thinks of our family. My phone rang. Derrick. Morning, sunshine. Sleep well? Like a baby. You? Great, thanks. Hey, funny thing happened this morning. Got a call from Premier Auto asking about their sales director's car. Seems like Mr. Pace had some transportation issues last night. That's unfortunate. Yeah, real shame. Apparently, it's going to cost him about $800 to get his car back, plus another few hundred to fix the locks and clean out the vents. Something about seafood. Seafood? Weird, right? Anyway, thought you'd find that interesting. Very interesting. Thanks for the update. After Julie left for work, taking an unusually long time to choose her outfit, I drove to the office supply store and printed out every piece of evidence I'd collected. Photos, messages, hotel receipts, everything. Then I made copies and stored them in 3 different locations. The plan was simple. If Julie wanted to play games, I'd give her a game she'd never forget. That evening, I suggested we have dinner at Romano's, the Italian place downtown where everyone went to see and be seen. Julie seemed surprised by the suggestion, but agreed, probably thinking it was a sign that things were returning to normal. She was wrong. I'd spent the afternoon making phone calls, to her sister Annabelle, inviting her to join us for dinner, to her parents, mentioning that we had some exciting news to share, to several of her coworkers, suggesting they stop by Romano's for drinks after work, to Mrs. Dorsey, letting slip that we'd be celebrating our anniversary early. By 7 o'clock, Romano's was packed with people who knew us, all wondering what the big announcement would be. Julie looked beautiful in her black dress, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for what was about to happen. Almost. "You seem nervous," she said as we waited for our table. "Just excited to share our news." "What news?" "You'll see." Annabelle arrived first, followed by Julie's parents, then several coworkers from her real estate firm. Soon our small table had expanded into a large group, everyone chatting and speculating about what we were celebrating. "So," Julie's father said, raising his wine glass, "what's this big announcement?" I stood up, pulling out my phone. "Well, since everyone's here, I thought this would be the perfect time to share something Julie's been keeping secret." Julie's face went pale. "Todd, what are you doing?" "Just being honest for once." I opened the photo gallery I'd prepared and connected my phone to the restaurant's Wi-Fi. Then I activated the AirDrop function, sending the entire collection of evidence to every device in range. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Phones started buzzing throughout the restaurant as people received dozens of photos and screenshots. Julie's affair, laid out in explicit detail, was now public knowledge. Annabelle gasped, covering her mouth. Julie's mother dropped her wine glass. Her father's face turned red with rage, but not at me, at Julie. "You've got to be kidding me," he said, staring at his phone. "Dad, I can explain." "Explain what? Explain how you've been lying to your husband? To all of us." The entire restaurant had gone quiet, everyone staring at their phones and then at our table. Julie looked around desperately, realizing that her secret was now the most public thing in town. "Todd, please," she whispered. "We can work this out." "Work what out? Your book club meetings, your business trips, your late nights at the office." She tried to grab my phone, but I pulled it away. "This is insane. You're humiliating me." "I'm not humiliating you, Julie. You humiliated yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." That's when Ronan walked in. He must have gotten word about what was happening, because he came straight to our table, his face twisted with anger. "You think you're clever, don't you?" "I think I'm thorough. This is harassment. I could have you arrested." "For what? Sharing photos my wife sent voluntarily? Forwarding messages from her phone? I haven't broken any laws, Ronan, unlike you, who's been breaking something much more important." He lunged at me then, but I was ready. I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him into an empty chair. He went down hard, and the entire restaurant erupted in laughter and applause. "That's enough!" Julie screamed, standing up so fast her chair toppled over. "All of you, just stop." But it was too late. The damage was done, the truth was out, and everyone she cared about now knew exactly who she really was. As Ronan picked himself up off the floor and Julie gathered her purse to leave, I sat back down and calmly cut into my steak. The show was over, but the consequences were just beginning. Mrs. Dorsey, who had somehow appeared at the restaurant despite not being invited, leaned over to whisper in my ear. "Well done, dear. She had it coming." I couldn't have agreed more. The fallout from Romano's was swift and merciless. By morning, Julie's humiliation had spread through social media like wildfire. Mrs. Dorsey had apparently live-tweeted the entire event, complete with photos and commentary. The hashtag #DanAshBookClubJulie was trending locally. Julie didn't come home that night, or the next. I assumed she was staying with Ronan, trying to salvage whatever was left of their relationship. Good luck with that. Annabelle called on Wednesday morning, her voice shaky with emotion. "Todd, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Julie was doing this to you." "I know you didn't. This isn't your fault." "She's my sister, though. I should have seen the signs." She fooled everyone, Annabelle. That's what makes her so dangerous. There was a long pause. She wants to meet with you, says she has something important to tell you. I bet she does. Will you see her? I considered it. Julie was probably desperate now, ready to try anything to salvage her reputation or her marriage. Both were already destroyed, but she might not realize that yet. Tell her to meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at noon. And Annabelle, you might want to be there too. I have a feeling she's going to need family support. What do you mean? You'll see. I spent the rest of Wednesday making preparations. Phone calls, arrangements, and one very important conversation with a private investigator I'd hired the day after discovering Julie's affair. The man had been thorough, and his findings were even more damaging than I'd expected. Thursday arrived gray and overcast, perfect weather for what I had planned. I got to Riverside Park early and chose a bench with a clear view of the parking area. At exactly noon, Julie's car pulled up, followed by Ronan's BMW. Apparently, he'd gotten it back from the impound lot. They approached together, Julie looking haggard and desperate, Ronan trying to project confidence he clearly didn't feel. Annabelle arrived a few minutes later, parking separately and walking over with obvious reluctance. Todd, Julie said, sitting down beside me without invitation, we need to talk. I'm listening. This has gone far enough. You've made your point, humiliated me publicly, destroyed my reputation. Can't we call it even? Even? I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. Julie, we're nowhere near even. Ronan stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. She's trying to be reasonable here. Maybe you should consider keeping your mouth shut, I interrupted. Unless you want me to share what I learned about your previous relationships. His confidence evaporated instantly. What are you talking about? Amanda Richardson in Phoenix, Jennifer Walsh in Denver. Should I continue? Julie looked confused. What's he talking about, Ronan? Nothing. He's bluffing. I pulled out a manila folder and handed it to Julie. Private investigator's report. Turns out your boyfriend has quite a history of seducing married women, then disappearing when things get complicated. You're number 7, by the way. Julie opened the folder and began reading, her face growing paler with each page. Ronan, is this true? Julie, I can explain. Is it true? He looked around desperately, realizing he was trapped. Some of it might be accurate, but some of it? Julie's voice was rising. According to this, you're still married. Your wife lives in California. We're separated. Separated isn't divorced. She threw the folder at him, papers scattering in the wind. You told me you were single. Technically, I am single. We haven't lived together in... Step back, Julie said, her voice now chillingly quiet. Step back from me right now. Ronan looked at me with pure hatred. This is all your fault. No, this is all your fault. I just made sure everyone knew about it. He started toward me, but Annabelle surprised everyone by stepping between us. Don't you dare. You've done enough damage to my family. Your family? Your sister's the one who... My sister made a mistake. You made a career out of destroying marriages. Ronan looked around at the three of us, realized he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered, and stalked back to his car. He peeled out of the parking lot, leaving Julie sitting on the bench with tears streaming down her face. I'm so stupid, she whispered. Yes, you are, I agreed. She looked at me with surprise, as if she'd expected sympathy. Todd, I know I messed up, but maybe we can... No. What? No, we can't work this out. No, I won't forgive you. No, there's no going back. But I love you. You love the security I provided. You love having someone to come home to after your adventures. You love having a safety net while you destroy other people's lives. That's not love, Julie. That's convenience. She was crying harder now, and Annabelle moved to comfort her, but I wasn't finished. The divorce papers will be served Monday. I'm keeping the house, the car, and most of our savings. You can keep your clothes and whatever dignity you have left, which isn't much. You can't do this. I already have. Your affair, your lies, your betrayal, it's all documented. No judge in the world will side with you after seeing what you've done. I'll fight you. With what lawyer? What money? Your parents have already cut you off, your job is in jeopardy, and your boyfriend just abandoned you in a public park. Face it, Julie, you have nothing left to fight with. She looked around desperately, as if searching for some escape from the reality of her situation. But there wasn't one. She'd made her choices, and now she had to live with the consequences. I never meant for this to happen, she said finally. Yes, you did. Every text message, every hotel meeting, every lie you told, those were all choices. You meant for all of it to happen. I stood up and looked down at her one last time. Goodbye, Julie. I hope Ronan was worth it. As I walked back to my car, I heard her sobbing behind me, comforted by her sister, but truly alone for the first time in years. The sound should have made me feel guilty or sad. Instead, it made me feel free. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Julie didn't contest it, she couldn't afford to, and she had no grounds to stand on. Ronan had disappeared entirely, apparently moving on to his next victim in another city. I kept the house, started dating a wonderful woman named Rebecca who appreciated honesty and never looked back. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate schemes or public humiliation. Sometimes it's just letting people see who someone really is and then walking away while they deal with the consequences. Julie had wanted excitement, passion, and adventure. Instead, she got exactly what she deserved. Nothing at all. And I got my life back.